Hi, this is Kirk with Forex Trading Secrets, and today we're going to be discussing the 1551 trading course, the basic review, and today's date. The reason I say a basic review, but you'll see how in-depth it is. If you follow just the basics, you don't have to get elaborate with this system. Just follow the basics, and it really works well. We learn how to trade not only by listening and watching webinars, which we're doing today, and there will be some learning to take place here, but by studying the course material. That's where you really start to learn it. You may learn by pondering one concept at a time. That, I think, is the most effective method. Say, okay, I want to work on entries, or I want to work on exits, or I want to work on timing on the 15-minute, timing on the 5, timing my 1-minute entries. So those are different concepts, and if you worked on each one of those concepts at a time, then you can put them all together, letting them become part of you and part of us as traders, rather than passing over them quickly and superficially because we think we already know the material. Yet we continually make the same mistakes. I've been there, you've been there. We go over the material, whether it's my material or material I've looked at a lot of other material from other people when I was first learning to try and figure out how to use it. And I'd say, well, I already know that. And so I'd skip over it. And that was the thing that I really needed to learn. So now let's go to some charts, and we're going to show you what we are talking about. Okay, we're going to, first of all, the course starts based on a 15-minute time frame. That's where we find that once we determine the direction we're going to be trading, then that's when we can find out how to trade. Now we know this is obviously it's a good trend for a while here. So I'm going to mark a couple of spots. I'm going to start right here. And you say, why didn't you start before then? Well, I'll show you, and you can do that on your own on your charts once you know the concept. Every place I'm seeing the filter on the 15-minute cross the zero line, that's where I put a mark. They show up. They're easy to see. You can see them as the market's going. And there's one right there, a color change, not a cross, but a color change. That's a cross, color change, and a cross. But the other thing, it has to be on the correct side of that 1534 moving average. Right here is a sideways market. Now, we can go, I'm not going to go into depth in these, I'll just show you what I'm talking about. Right here it crossed, but was it on the correct side of that moving average? No, it has to be on the correct side of the moving average. So then once it crossed, then you can go to the smaller time frames and look at that one. Just remember, I'm saying correct side of that moving average. Yes, there are counter trend trades, and everyone that tries to do that in the beginning will have mediocre success, or they'll lose a lot. So don't worry about trading against the trend. Trade with the trend. There's plenty of trades. This is just one currency pair. So now each of these vertical lines, these three vertical lines, I'm going to go to the 5-minute and the 1-minute. So you know what happened on the 15. Now let's go to the 5. Okay, now what are we looking for on the 5-minute? There's a couple of things we can look for. We can look for a fresh filter cross, and that is really great when it's in a trend, which this is. Sometimes the fresh cross of the male is a better signal, and that's usually a better signal, like right over here. This one was a fresh cross right there, but it was on the wrong side and it was going sideways. The fresh cross of the male became the better signal when you're coming out of a sideways market. Okay, that 5-minute matched up right there. This one was an early bird filter. This is a 4-bar, but that's when the 15 went off. If you'd been watching the 5, you could have taken that trade a little bit earlier by watching the 5 when the 5 crossed. So this trade right here, out of the 3 trades, is the worst one. Is it a bad trade? Not necessarily. It did go a few pips in your direction, came back a little bit, But see, you're not going to have these tremendous, gigantic drawdowns just by following that one even. I would get out, and there's a couple of places you could probably get in, and we'll look at the 1 minute on that. Okay, the last one on the right, we want to make sure that either the filter and or the male are across the zero line. That was a color change, a saddle on the male. The filter wasn't across. Was it a good move? We'll look at the 1 minute and see if that would have given us enough to take it on the 1 minute. I'm going to put another line on this one when both the filter and the male were across, and see which one looks the best. Now we can see right now that this one looks the best right on this time frame, but could we have gotten some more pips had we been on the 1 minute? And that's what we'll look at. Now let's go to the 1 minute and start on the line at the left. Okay, once you go to the 1 minute, you notice this is a good pattern. I picked this trend on purpose because it gave us a chance to show you where the entries are and how to look for entries. So we have to have the price bars on the correct side of all the 34s is the best. Sometimes if you're really on top of everything, you could take well, that one's right on top of it because the momentum was so strong. So let's move this line over to where it's a 4-bar. Well, it's not even a 4-bar. It's still below the line there. Okay, there's where it went across, and it's a 4-bar, and it crossed the line there. So someplace right in there, we could have taken a trade. That went up 42 pips. And you can decide whether you would have gotten out or managed it. We're not talking about managing in this the video. We want to talk about just finding the entry signals right here. See, it went across again. There was a saddle, a fresh cross. Now this one happened pretty quick. It's possibly a news move. It went up 20, 30 pips. If you hadn't taken that, well, fine. There's more trades. Look right here. There's another trade right here. And across a saddle. Look for saddles. And this one went 20 pips. What are we looking for? Just to make it easy, a fresh cross or a saddle. Those are two things. If you watch for those things, you're going to have a good shot at getting a trade when it's fairly early. Usually I put the line in the middle of a price bar because you don't know how fast it moved, and you probably wouldn't have caught it at the very beginning unless you actually were in it from a previous trade. And this went, so it was a nice move. There's 4 to 8 pips could have been taken out of that 10 pip move. They went sideways, and you can see it's running out of gas, but there's still trades. Fresh cross, 4-bar on the right side of the line, and we go up. That went about to 25 pips or so. Now, so I'm going to do on this last one, I'm going to mark it. Then I'm going to go back to the 5 minute right here. What did the 5 minute do? We may not have taken that because the 5 minute was not on the correct side. So let's go this 1 minute and mark some of those places that I took trades on the 1 minute. See if the 5 minute would have agreed with that, and maybe the 5 minute would have kept us out of taking the trade. Okay, notice that they're pretty much where the saddles are. That doesn't always happen that way. And good trends, it most of the time does happen that way. And this over here was not a saddle anymore. So let's go back to the 5 minute and see which of those lines confirm. So we're just looking over here on the left of this cluster of lines. The second line was good. The third line looked like it was okay as well. It's crossed. The fourth line, questionable because it was red, and it was on the bottom side. It was not on the correct side, and it was mostly red. So these last two, the 5 minute would not have given you heads up. Now there are scans for these. the scanner can bring these to your attention. So these last two, if you'd seen that one, of course, that one looked like it was a good one at this point, but we didn't know that, so we may not have taken that one. So these two were mediocre. These three were good. So there's a lot of pips to be made right there. Now let's go back to the 5 minute and look at this line. This is where the 15 said it was all ready, and the 5 was ready at the same point. This is where the 5 minute and 15 minute said it was okay. Notice the pattern wasn't strong here. If you'd been watching this 1 minute chart, you possibly could have taken something in here for a few pips. Possibly something right here, but it went to 15 pips in your direction, and then I came back quickly, so many people would have lost on that or made very little. So you can see that the 15 was okay on the bottom, but right here it wasn't on the top side. These were in the top side strong zone all the way. This was a weak zone. This one was a weak zone. The second bar was a strong zone on this 15 minute. We went through this to 5, and so this was not a very good area to trade, because we can see that it came out of the retracement here and took off again, and then was not really strong. So let's go to the last two lines. We had one where the 15 was, it was a filter, was a fresh cross, early bird filter. The next one was a 4-bar, everything on the correct side, strong zone. Okay, the first one was this, the filter was a fresh cross. The 5 minute said heads up, possibly be okay. Let's go to the 1 minute. What did the 1 minute tell us? 1 minute said it was, everything was not on the correct side. Look where it happened to be on the correct side. Partway up that bar, let's just go right even closer to the top of that bar. It went to 10, 11 pips. It did come back and test it, so you may or may not have wanted to get out of that one. But then it turned out to be about a 60 pip move. And so it was a good 50 pips if you had closed it someplace in there. And could you have added on to that trade, you could, or taken another trade? Fresh color change, saddle, 4-bar, everything's on the trend. Look at the trend lines. And so that was a place that 30 or 40 pips. So if you had missed the first one, then the second one gave you another good trade. Or you could have taken, let's say you took out 10, 15 out of that one and got out because it came back against you. And then you possibly got in this one, took out 30 to 40 pips from that one before you decided to get out of that one. Is that helping people to see what the simplicity of the system is? No, I don't generally wait for the 1 minute bar to close before entering. I have the 15 minute that gave me heads up the momentum, the 5 minute that gave me momentum, and as soon as that turns the right color, then a 4-bar saddle, I'll enter. Sometimes it'll flicker and go back to a different color, but very seldom, if the larger two time frames are the right colors and the right side of the lines and everything's strong, even if the 1 minute flickers, very seldom does it ever go much against you. It might flicker a little bit, then it generally takes off. So that's a good question. Many people ask about close of bars. There are some courses, they teach you that you have to have a close of bar. That's their system. If that's what they say, then follow that system. Don't, if you decide to use ours, don't use theirs. If you decide to use theirs, don't use ours. Use what they're instructing you with, as far as if they say, wait till the close of a bar, follow their instructions. That's what they've designed the system to be like. We don't necessarily do that because we have 3 time frames giving us the direction.